After being on the road for 14 days on our first trip in the fifth wheel, we finally arrived at Disney's Fort Wilderness.
How can I help you today?
Why don't you check in?
Perfect. Let me just see a photo ID.
We were here for our son's wedding. Ryan had some issues getting the rig into its first real back-end spot.
You're doing better, Ryan. It's actually working. Is the hitch okay?
Just for the life of me, I could not get it to come straight back on the concrete pad, and I actually hit the bumper on the fence. One thing should be highlighted today. I'm really bad at backing.
We just got to Florida, and now I'm gonna fly all the way back to Idaho and gonna surprise my mom for her 65th birthday. She has no idea that I'm coming, so that'll be fun. Our daughter Miranda flew back with me for the wedding.
Yay, we just got here. It's 2:10 in the morning.
Devin and Katie got married on February 16th at Walt Disney World. We published our first YouTube video. We had our first mechanical issues with the rig.
Oh, the 5-amp fuse on the board is blowing.
And other problems that were self-inflicted.
One of the things that I've been concerned about ever since we started RVing is I don't want to build any pyramids. We done built a pyramid.
We had only planned on staying for 12 days. How long have we been at Disney's Fort Wilderness campground?
We have been here for
30 days?
30 days.
But the weather was so great and we were having such a fun time.
Go get it.
It gave us time to relax, play on the water, we learned there's a thing called looping.
We were looping one day. We were looping, driving around in a golf cart.
So that's a thing, looping, and you just literally drive around all the loops and just check out everybody else's place. We learned some interesting things about the fort, and Disney, they do a good job of keeping the place clean. They actually bring in pine needles, we found that out.
They're pulling out bundles of pine needles and raking them into place. So these are clean Disney sidewalks. These are dirty Disney sidewalks. And mark them so they know where they left off.
It's a Mickey head.
It's a Mickey head. One thing we learned about Fort Wilderness while we're here is that a steam train used to go through here. But there's still places in the fort where you can find pieces of what used to be the Disney Railroad.
The tracks were basically falling apart and there were accidents were happening, so it wasn't safe. So they shut it down.
It's amazing to see just how overgrown this all is. Now, if you think about it, it went out of service in like 1979, 1980. That's 40 years.
And Miranda and Ryan got their first ticks.
Very worried about ticks.
Can't believe we stayed at the fort for 31 days. We had a lot of fun, and these were just some of our highlights. But now let's talk about the problems.
We got home and we found the fridge not working, like no power at all. So I checked the fuse box and the circuit breaker. They seem to be fine. So I went outside, took off the cover, and there's a 5-amp fuse on that board, and it was blown. So I went, replaced the fuse. That solved the immediate problem, but later that thing would blow like every 30 minutes to an hour. We'd have a blown fuse. I did some troubleshooting online, but at that point I just decided to call the mobile tech. So our fridge is still working. Thanks to Keith from RV Force. He came out, worked on it. Friday he came out, and at that point in time, refrigerator would run for about 30 minutes, and then after about 30 minutes it would pop the fuse. Every time it would pop the 5-amp fuse on the board there. So I could replace the fuse, it'd run for a little while longer, and then it would pop. So we called RV Force, and they got on the phone with Norcold, and I mean they like immediately told him that most of the time a fuse being blown on the board is from the fan binding up.
Okay, so you'd have to just replace the fans if that was the case.
We looked, and there's one fan here, which I'm not sure if you could see. It is currently running. Where the other vent is up there, there's 2 fans up there.
So I put a jumper to those 2 wires so it acted like it was hot. So it acted like the temperature was up to temperature for the fans to come on. So when the fans came on, this fan and this fan came on, but this third fan was not coming on.
Keith unplugged both of them, and since he did that, we've had no problems with the fuse blowing. And the bad part is, though, now we have poor air circulation come through, but the weather here has been much cooler the last couple days. When we were blowing those fuses, we were about in the mid 80s, and the high yesterday was, I think it was 59. It was crazy low. But we got to get this problem solved. So he said he ordered the fans in for us. We're due to leave here the end of this week. I'm hoping he gets back here with those fans. You get to meet some good people RVing. We're at Disney's Fort Wilderness, and our neighbor that lived right there, Norm from Michigan, really cool guy. They own a sod farm and also do a corn maze, and he had a cool bike.
It's got my speedometer, it tracks how fast I'm going, it tracks my mileage and all that sort of thing.
It's so much different than riding a bike.
Oh, it's a world of different. Yeah. There's like 5 or 6 reasons why you don't ride it, why you ride this instead of a bike.
I've seen people ride those, and I've always thought to myself, man, they're gonna get hit by a car, but man, those are cool bikes. Norm had family visit him while he was here, and apparently his tank got a little bit backed up, so he had to get it pumped. It sounded like it was about $250. One of the things that I've been concerned about ever since we started RVing is I don't want to build any pyramids. We done built a pyramid. When we had the loaner, the very first time I hooked up sewer on the loaner, I'm gonna try to get it on here close fast. And I went out and I pulled the cap, and as soon as I pulled the cap, I got an ooze of surprise. And so I was reading online, and people put the gate valves on. I wasn't gonna let that happen to me again, so I put gate valves on both of our connections. I'm gonna put on a gate valve just because the first time I ever dumped on the loaner rig, I got a surprise I didn't like. Yesterday, Sarah says she smells something coming from the garage. We go back there, and sure enough, there's a smell coming from the back bathroom. So go in, check it, and it seems to be a little backed up. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe the tank's full. So I go check the monitor panel, 0%. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe that doesn't read right, maybe that doesn't work. So I come out and I'm gonna empty the black tank. And at this point, I only have one big long hose. Actually, it's 2 sections of hose connected up, and I use that for the main black tank. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to hook up the back yet. I've seen people have like white connectors. I don't know. And the thing about it for me is when I empty the front black tank, empty the black tank, and then you empty the gray, kind of cleans out the pipe. I don't have that back here. So do you just empty out the black tank and have a dirty pipe? I got to do some research there. The one thing I missed, I didn't check and make sure that the valve was closed. The valve is closed?
What happened?
It's open. Open and close it, it's open. So I know as soon as I open that gate valve, all hell's gonna break loose. And I also know that that whole pipe is now full of everything. Now look at that. See?
That is...
I'm so glad we had a gate valve on. Now, a smarter RV person would have made sure this was closed. But I don't know why it was open. Maybe it's because when they winterized it. So what I did is after I pulled it the first time, some of the fluids came out, just emptying the main part of the pipe right here, but it was blocked up in there. So put a connection on here, went to Home Depot, bought a big 50-foot hose that would reach all the way up to the service point, and I just started flushing. Filled the black tank, opened it up, filled the black tank, opened it up, and then I filled it for one last time and let it set for a while. And we broke loose. We have clear water now.
We're on our morning walk. We like to do every day before it gets too hot, because the dogs have so much fur. We have to make sure we're not out in the middle of the day where the sun's so hot. Anyway, it's a beautiful, brisk morning. A little bit of cool air. It's a nice break after all the heat we've had lately. Just have a nice walk. Are you having fun, Pop? We are enjoying our last couple days here. A couple more sunsets, a couple more fun walks, and then we'll be headed to our next destination. I'm a little bit nervous about that because, well, the unknown. I don't like it, but we're gonna go head up to St. Augustine next. So that'll be fun. I've never been there before, and we'll get to go look around there, and then I think we're gonna head down to the Keys after that. We'll see.